She told me, "You don't get to just walk away from 4 years. I chose you. You should be grateful." Then she proposed taking a year off to find herself by dating other people. Instead, I walked away, rebuilt my life, and found peace without her that we'd been together for 4 years. I met Hannah in grad school. She was in marketing. I was finishing my MBA. At first, she was magnetic, the kind of person who could walk into a crowded room and instantly know everyone's name. She had a confidence I admired and, honestly, envied. Our relationship started with a bang. Long nights studying in coffee shops, weekend road trips with playlists we argued over, ambitious conversations about careers, kids, and buying a brownstone someday. We felt like a team. But cracks don't show up as earthquakes. They show up in microtremors. For me, the first one was 2 years in, when she said during an argument, "You're lucky I chose you. Do you know how many guys would kill to have me?" It landed like a joke with sharp teeth. I brushed it off, told myself it was stress talking. But then she said variations of it again. When I didn't want to go to a networking dinner, when I questioned her spending, when I asked for space after a fight. "I chose you. Be grateful." The words weren't just offhand remarks anymore. They were becoming a script. By year 3, I started noticing how often I showed up in her sentences compared to we. "I want to live in New York. I need to travel more. I'm not sure you're keeping up." It gnawed at me, but I kept holding on. For years felt like something sacred. You don't just throw that away over words, right? Then, last spring, she sat me down at our kitchen table. She had her serious face on, the one she usually wore when she was about to deliver career news. "I've been thinking," she started. "I feel like I need space to figure out who I am outside of us." My chest tightened. "What do you mean by space?" She exhaled like I was already exhausting her. "A year. Just a year off. We don't break up, but I get to explore, date other people, travel, see what's out there." I stared at her. "So, you get to live like you're single, and I just sit here waiting for you." "It's not like that," she said quickly. "It's about growth. Don't you want me to be my best self when we finally commit?" The kicker? She finished the speech with, "You don't get to just walk away from 4 years. I chose you. You should be grateful." That sentence landed like a guillotine. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just sat there numb. That night, I lay awake next to her, listening to her breathing. I realized I was already gone. My body was in that bed, but my spirit had packed its bags. So the next morning, while she went to a yoga class, I opened my laptop. I checked our joint finances. I downloaded statements. I separated what was mine from what was hers. I emailed a lawyer a friend had recommended months back after his own messy breakup. And then I started healing. At first, healing looked like silence. I stopped engaging in her circular conversations. I stopped trying to reason with someone who already had her narrative. I stopped waiting for apologies that weren't coming. Instead, I started journaling. Therapy. Early morning runs. Calling friends I'd let drift away because I was too busy orbiting around her son. 3 months later, I barely recognized myself. I wasn't fully healed, but I wasn't broken anymore. Which is when Hannah showed back up at my emotional doorstep. She came home one evening after a girls' trip, dropped her suitcase in the hall, and smiled like nothing had happened. "So," she said breezily, "I've had time to think. I'm ready now. Ready for us to take the next step." I blinked at her. "What step?" "Marriage," she said, like it was obvious. I needed to confirm what I already knew. "That you're it. My one. My person." She said it like she was offering me a prize. And all I could think was, she believes her absence was a gift. She thinks her wandering was an investment. And she expects me to cash out in gratitude. But I wasn't that man anymore that I didn't answer her right away. For a moment, I just watched her unpack groceries like she hadn't just detonated our relationship 3 months ago. She was humming under her breath, setting a carton of almond milk on the counter, checking her phone every 30 seconds. It was surreal, like stepping into a parallel universe where her year off never happened. Finally, I said quietly, "You think you can just walk back in after everything?" She looked up, surprised. "Well, yes. That's what couples do. They go through phases, challenges. It makes them stronger." My stomach twisted. I almost laughed. Phases? That was her word for telling me she wanted to sleep with other people while I sat home waiting like a placeholder? "Hannah," I said carefully, "when you asked for a year off, you weren't talking about space. You were asking for a hall pass. You made me an option while you chased your curiosity." Her jaw tightened. That's unfair. I was honest about what I needed. I didn't cheat. I didn't sneak around. I told you up front. Do you hear yourself? I asked, my voice still calm. You don't get credit for being transparent about disrespect. You wanted me to sit here and twiddle my thumbs while you found yourself. She crossed her arms, defensive. But I came back. I chose you. There it was again. That damn phrase. I chose you. Something in me snapped, but not in the yelling way. It was like glass finally shattering after years of cracks spreading silently. I went to the bookshelf, pulled down a manila envelope, and placed it on the kitchen table between us. She frowned. What's this? Documentation, I said evenly. Bank statements, proof of my contributions, receipts. Everything's already been reviewed by my lawyer. Her face drained of color. Why do you have a lawyer? Because the minute you told me you wanted a year off to date other people, I realized this wasn't a relationship. It was an audition, and I don't audition for partners. She shook her head in disbelief. You're being dramatic. You can't just walk away from 4 years. I met her eyes. Watch me. Silence stretched between us. I could see the wheels turning in her head, the disbelief curdling into panic. This wasn't the reaction she'd scripted in her mind. In her version, I should have been grateful she came back. I should have rushed to wrap her in my arms, to thank her for gracing me with her decision. Instead, I was sliding her a packet of financial documents and talking about lawyers. She tried another angle. But we've built so much together. All those trips, all the memories. Doesn't that mean anything? I sighed. Of course it does. But memories aren't mortgages. They don't pay into the future. You cashed them out the day you asked me to sit in limbo while you explored your options. Her voice rose. So that's it. You're just done? No second chances. I leaned back in my chair. I gave you 4 years of chances, Hannah. You gave me a list of reasons why I should be grateful you tolerated me. That's not a partnership. That's a hostage situation wrapped in pretty words. She flinched like I'd slapped her. You're cruel. No, I said softly. I'm clear. She stared at me, breathing hard. Then she grabbed the envelope, shoved it back toward me, and hissed. You'll regret this. No one else will put up with you. The words stung, I won't lie. But instead of making me crumble, they clarified everything. She was projecting. That wasn't about me. That was her deepest fear, that no one else would put up with her demands, her conditions, her ego. I stood, picked up my keys, and said, I already don't regret it. Then I walked out the door. The days after were strange. Quiet. Empty, but not in a way that hurt. More like when you finally take off shoes that have been rubbing blisters into your feet for hours. Relief mixed with soreness. She bombarded me with texts at first. Angry ones. You're throwing everything away. You'll come crawling back. Then sad ones. I miss you. I'm sorry. I was confused. Then manipulative ones. Don't make me tell people how cold you are. I didn't reply to a single one. I'd already changed the locks, separated the accounts, redirected my mail. Every time I saw her name pop up, I archived the thread. Silence was my new language. 2 weeks later, I heard from a mutual friend that Hannah was telling people we were on a break, that she'd decided to give me space after her trip, and I was just overreacting. The irony made me laugh out loud. She still needed to control the narrative, to be the one choosing. Even in our ending, she couldn't admit I had made a choice for myself. But for once, that didn't matter. Her story was no longer my problem. My story was Saturday mornings at the gym, evenings experimenting with cooking instead of eating takeout, reconnecting with old friends who said things like, man, we missed you. It was therapy sessions where I finally admitted how small I'd felt for years. It was learning to stretch out on my bed diagonally and loving the extra space. Healing wasn't glamorous. It was boring, repetitive, ordinary. But it was mine. And then, just when I thought the past was finally behind me, Hannah came storming back into my life with a demand that almost made me laugh out loud. Update. I thought it was over. Truly. I thought the silence would speak for itself and she'd eventually accept it. But if there's one thing Hannah couldn't stand, it was losing control of the story. It started with her mother. One Saturday morning, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. When I answered, a woman's voice, tight, formal, said, Hello, this is Mrs. Blake. I think you know my daughter. I froze. We'd only met a handful of times, always politely, never warmly. Hannah used to complain her parents were too traditional. Yes, ma'am, I said cautiously. She exhaled. She's very upset. She told us you abandoned her without explanation. After 4 years, don't you think she deserves at least a conversation? I rubbed my temples. The spin had already started. Mrs. Blake, with all due respect, she didn't tell you the whole story. A pause. Then, with a sigh, she said, "We'll let you two figure this out." And the line went dead. That same day, two mutual friends texted me. "Hey, Hannah's telling people you're having a breakdown. Is that true?" There it was. The smear campaign. If she couldn't win me back with guilt, she'd try to paint me as unstable. I didn't take the bait. I screenshotted her text from weeks earlier, the angry, the pleading, the manipulative, and quietly forwarded them to my lawyer. Just in case, I wrote. The next escalation came the following week. I was coming out of the gym when I saw her leaning against my car. Arms crossed, sunglasses on, like a scene from a bad movie. "You're ignoring me," she said flatly. "Yes," I replied, unlocking the door. "You don't get to do this," she snapped. "You don't get to throw away 4 years. I chose you. I came back. You're supposed to." I cut her off. "Hannah, you keep saying you chose me, but you didn't. You chose yourself. And when I finally chose myself too, you couldn't stand it." She glared. "So what? You're just done? After everything I gave you?" I looked her in the eye. "You didn't give me love, Hannah. You gave me conditions. Lists. Ultimatums. I'm not living like that anymore." Her lips trembled, and for a moment I almost saw real hurt. But then the mask snapped back. "You'll regret this. No one else will put up with you." "I don't need someone to put up with me," I said. "I need someone who wants to be with me. There's a difference." I got in the car. She banged on the window once, hard, but I drove away. That night, she flooded my inbox with messages. "You're heartless. I can fix this if you just let me. Don't make me waste 4 years of my life." The last one made me laugh bitterly. Waste. As if I'd been a project that didn't yield the return she wanted. I didn't reply. Over the next month, the storm lost momentum. Friends stopped asking. Her mother never called again. The texts slowed from daily to weekly to nothing. I blocked the last number she used. And then one evening, while I was cooking dinner and humming to myself, I realized something. I hadn't thought about her in days. That realization hit me harder than any confrontation. I was free, not because I'd slammed the door in her face, not because I'd won some argument, but because she no longer lived rent-free in my head. She tried to force me to stay in a role I never agreed to play. But in the end, the only power she had was the power I gave her. And I finally stopped giving. Final update. It's been 6 months since the last time Hannah tried to wedge herself back into my life. By now, her presence feels more like a distant echo than a constant storm. I wanted to share what life looks like on the other side, because the truth is, the hardest part wasn't leaving her. The hardest part was rebuilding myself after years of shrinking to fit inside her expectations. For a long time, my identity had been tied to being her boyfriend. I was the safe option, the loyal one, the steady rock she could lean on while she chased every new phase of finding herself. I wore that role like armor, convincing myself that stability was enough. But stability without respect isn't partnership. It's captivity. After I left, the silence was jarring. No texts buzzing my phone at midnight. No criticism about the way I folded laundry. No passive-aggressive sighs if I didn't mirror her mood. Just silence. For weeks, it felt like standing in an empty house with echoes bouncing off the walls. Part of me kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for her to reappear with some new tactic. When that didn't happen, the emptiness became a canvas. I started small. I went back to painting, something I'd given up because she called it a waste of time unless it makes money. I dusted off my old sketchbook, and the first lines were shaky, hesitant, but they were mine. For hours, I sat in quiet focus, and when I stepped back, I realized I was smiling. I signed up for weekend hikes with a local group. I met people who valued nature, laughter, and simple joy. Conversations flowed easily because I wasn't editing myself to match someone else's standards. Nobody there cared whether my career trajectory looked impressive on paper or if I'd made enough self-improvements to earn their affection. Slowly, my world expanded. And then, something unexpected happened. I met Emily. Not in a grand, cinematic way. She was part of the hiking group, carrying an oversized backpack and laughing at her own clumsiness when she tripped over roots. We started talking during a water break, and it felt natural. No tension, no games. just two people curious about each other. I didn't dive head first. I told myself, take your time, heal fully, don't repeat patterns. But the difference was obvious from the start. With Emily, there were no conditions, no ultimatums. If I shared a thought, she listened instead of correcting. If I was quiet, she didn't demand explanations. She simply let me be, and I realized how starved I'd been for that kind of acceptance. A few weeks ago, we cooked dinner at her place. Halfway through chopping vegetables, she looked up and said, "You seem lighter these days." Like someone who stopped carrying a backpack full of bricks. That comment hit home, because she was right. I'd carried guilt, obligation, and manipulation for years. Letting it go didn't just change my relationship status. It changed me. And what about Hannah? From what I've heard through mutual acquaintances, she's still spinning stories. To some, she claims I abandoned her during her lowest point. To others, she paints herself as the one who walked away because I couldn't handle her growth. But the truth is, her narrative no longer matters to me. People who know me saw the reality. The rest? They're not my audience. I used to worry about what she'd say, how it would affect my reputation, whether her version would overshadow mine. But now I realize, when you're busy living authentically, you stop chasing approval. The people who matter will see through the noise. The last time I saw her was by chance, at a cafe downtown. She spotted me across the room, froze, and for a second I thought she'd come over. But then she looked away, pretending to scroll through her phone, her hands shaking just slightly. I ordered my coffee, nodded politely when I passed her table, and walked out. There was no satisfaction, no anger, just calm. That's when I knew I was free. I don't regret those 4 years. They taught me how much of myself I was willing to compromise, and more importantly, that I never should again. They showed me the danger of mistaking control for love and the importance of self-respect as the foundation for any relationship. If you're reading this and you're in a situation where someone is constantly moving the goalposts, asking you to change fundamental parts of yourself to deserve their love, please hear me. That's not love. That's possession. And you don't owe anyone your life just because they chose you under conditions that only benefited them. Walking away will feel like tearing off a part of yourself. But what you'll discover is that the part being torn away isn't you at all. It's the cage they built around you. Now, 6 months later, my life is quieter, brighter, and more honest. My days aren't filled with drama or accusations. My nights aren't haunted by anxiety over whether I'm enough. Instead, they're filled with laughter, messy sketches, long hikes, and dinners where the only expectation is to enjoy each other's company. Hannah once told me I'd regret letting her go. But looking around at the life I'm building, the friends who support me, the woman who sees me as I am, the freedom of living on my own terms, regret is the furthest thing from my mind. If anything, my only regret is that I didn't choose myself sooner.